Welcome back to Joy After Grief. This is day 6, and I'm still John Hayes. And today I'm going to come back to Sherlock Holmes, actually, the Sherlock Holmes stories. And when I was thinking about it, and there's another thing that I've learned from reading these stories, and it's very interesting to me, but it's actually also been very, very helpful and practical as a teacher, for example. And believe it or not, it has to do with history. How there really are a lot of things in history that it's like they go in cycles. Certain things just seem to come back around again and again. And one example is Afghanistan. So this goes back to my classroom teaching days. And this was just like, I don't know, a year or two after 9/11. And so everything related to 9/11 is fresh in everybody's minds. It's in the news everywhere. And in particular, Afghanistan, Kabul, the Taliban. All of this was new at the time. Like, the war in Afghanistan was a new thing. It's almost impossible to imagine these days. So anyway, so we had this history class, and I think I was actually assisting. I think one of the other teachers was teaching it, and I was just assisting. And we finished this unit on Alexander the Great. Now, one of the places that Alexander made it to in his journeys was modern-day Afghanistan. So we completed the unit, and we were watching this documentary. And in the documentary, this guy, he was retracing Alexander's journeys. In other words, in the modern world, he was going to all the places that Alexander had been to, way back in the day. And so eventually he makes it to Afghanistan. And actually, this guy was really excited. He was going to go to, I think it was Kabul, and there's this museum there with just all of this rich history he was trying to get to. Well, he gets there, and by the way, this documentary was made about, 10 or 15 years or so before we're teaching this class. So well before the war on terror and everything. So this guy gets there in the documentary and he says, oh, this is crazy. This is terrible. There's been a civil war and now this new group is in power. They're called the Taliban. And they're instituting all these new rules and regulations and everything. And he gets to the museum and they've just destroyed it. It's just been destroyed, ruined, desecrated, looted. Like there's just nothing there. Everything's just a mess. And this guy is all upset and angry. All right, so anyway, so this is kind of cool. It gives the kids some recent history on what's going on here. Well, then I get home that night, and I'm just reading some Sherlock Holmes to chill out before bed. And as I'm reading, I think, oh yeah, Watson. Watson had served in Afghanistan. Because in the stories, Watson had been a surgeon in the military. So he's in the British Army as a surgeon, and he actually had served in Afghanistan. In fact, he took a bullet there. So then I'm just thinking, I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Like these stories are set in the late 1800s, and here we are, we're getting this window into this hot spot of world history, Afghanistan. And in fact, at that time, the British Empire and the Russian Empire, there were these two superpowers, and they were kind of playing this big geopolitical game of chess. It's called the Great Game. And as you look at Afghanistan throughout the whole 20th century, it's always been kind of this hot spot. And eventually, the Soviet Union, they invade Afghanistan, and it's often referred to as like, the Soviet Vietnam because it became this big quagmire that they got sucked into. So anyway, all of this stuff is very interesting to me, and it's actually very, very helpful as a teacher. And that's just one example of how Sherlock has helped me to see things about history. But it's not just Afghanistan. I mean, in the Sherlock Holmes stories, they deal with drug addiction, and among other things, cocaine and opium. They deal with race relations. There's all these international things, for example, like World War I and espionage. All these things are just kind of baked into these detective stories, and it's. Again, I just find it fascinating, and it's helped me, many times in teaching different subjects. So I just wanted to share a little bit more about Sherlock Holmes and these stories that have, not only brought me joy and pleasure, but I think they've actually taught me a thing or two about history. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.